this is a problem, right? Because a lot of our account people are order takers and they don't really understand our client's business and they don't really understand how to ask the right business questions.
What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast for the agency owner that wants to hear amazing stories from other agency owners. And today, I have a friend of mine, Drew, who's going to talk about his research for what you can actually do to get more business with your current clients and new business. And I think it's going to blow your mind. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Drew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us who you are, what you do.
So my name is Drew McClellan, and I own an organization called Agency Management Institute. And we serve small to mid-sized agencies, helping them grow, scale. And a big part of our work is helping them make more money and keep more of the money they make. So super focused on the back end of agencies. So our philosophy is most agency owners are accidental business owners. They're super great at the stuff they do for clients, but how to run their business profitably and well is not something they went to school for. And a lot of us sort of fell into agency ownership. And so our job is to help them run the business of the business better.
Cool. And did you run an agency? How'd you get into this game?
Yeah. So my wife and I still own our agency. We've been around for 30 years. And so we don't spend very much time at the agency anymore. We have an intact leadership team that does most of that work. But the only job I've ever had, even starting in college, was working in agencies. And so we purchased AMI about 15 years ago and spend most of our time running that today.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, let's talk about kind of the research and talk about kind of what are agencies missing when they're dealing with their clients and growing their agency.
Yeah. So we do an annual piece of research called the Agency Edge. And we go out and in most cases, this is our 10th year. In most cases, we've talked to people who hire agencies. Twice in our 10-year history, we've talked to agency employees when it sort of felt like the right time to get a read on that. But this study, we just unveiled the research results. So this is really fresh data. And the core focus of this piece of research, we pick a different sort of theme or focus area for each piece of research every year. The theme this year, because we know that agencies are struggling to find new clients, new business has slowed down quite a bit for agencies across the board. Clients are taking a longer time to hire a new agency. And even when they grant the work to someone, they're slow to give that first project. And so we knew this was a year where agencies needed to really focus on growing their existing book of business. How do we get more from the clients we already have, whose trust we've already earned, et cetera? So the gist of the research was, hey, agency client, how, when, and where would you or do you give your agency more money? That was really the thrust of the entire piece of research. Was just asking them what would prompt them to give us more money. And the results were fascinating. So the respondents fell into three different categories. The first category was really the agency client that we all want to have. These are people who want their agency at the C-suite table, talking about strategy, and their core belief is that the agency, they couldn't run their business as well and they couldn't market their business as well without the agency. So that's group number one. Group number two, which was the largest group, about 45% of the respondents, they are looking for specialists. They have an in-house team. They're pretty happy with their in-house team, but they need extra sets of hands and they need depths of expertise in things that they don't have on staff. But they really expect their agency to come in and partner with their internal team and to be an extension of that team. I don't really want to talk to them about big picture strategy and all of that. They kind of feel like they have that dialed in. And then the third group, which fortunately was the smallest group, it was under 25%. These are people who see agencies as sort of a necessary evil. They're too expensive. They always have their hand in my pocket. If I can avoid giving them any more money, I'm going to. So really, we end up focusing on the first two groups, right? Why would they give us more money? Which was, the good news is, 80% of the respondents. So
now, you've been doing this research for 10 years.
Yeah.
Have you asked these questions to, like, in the past? Like, I'm curious how these things have changed over the years.
No, like their 1 year, all we talked to them about was the role of an AE and what they got and what they wanted from account service people. Another year, we asked them, how did they decide when to part ways with an agency? What caused that? And how did they break up? So each piece of research is super focused on a topic that feels really timely in that moment.
I gotcha. Yeah, that'd be really interesting to kind of hear 5 years ago, be like, this is what's changed. Like, wow, there was not many people that said, you got you're trying to get all the money from me and I don't work with you. So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting. We always do see some shades of these types of attitudes, no matter what the topic is, that, there are some people who really, really, really see their agency as a partner. They're the clients we all want to have, right? We are their strategic partner. We're not a vendor. And then there are others who are like, I value what you do, but I have a very specific need and I'd like you to stay in that lane, please. What we don't normally see is the attitude of, you're kind of trying to suck my soul and my pocketbook. This was the first year we've seen like that come out quite so strongly, which may also be an indication of where business leaders and the C-suite folks are at in general, with all the pressures that they're under right now, that they're just a little more leery about all their partnerships.
Well, I also think too, there's more agencies than there's ever been, right? Just because and they're not. And just because we have a ton of agencies, that means there are even more worse ones out there that don't know how to market, don't know how to do a service, don't know how to kind of makes all the people that can actually do really good work kind of look in a bad light. How many times do you chat with people and people are like, well, I'm not an agency. Well, no, you're an agency. You just don't like what agency means. The word agency. It's kind of like, I hate the word agency coach, like, because, I kind of feel all crummy inside. Right. So I think it's kind of the same thing. People don't want to be associated with all the other, riffraff out there. Let's dive into kind of the first two that are important. What's important about, the first kind of group? Like, how can agencies, what does this mean for agencies, and how can this benefit them?
So one of the things that's interesting is that these people are not identifiable by any normal demographics. You can't say, well, the smaller clients are the ones who want you at the C-suite, or the multinationals are the one that want you to be just the SEO guy and do just that. So the difference is really about when they invite you in and how you approach them with the ideas that you have that would generate more revenue. And I will say, across the board, all three of them want an agency partner who's thinking about their business and not always in relation to how it impacts the agency. So basically, what they want is they want you to care enough about their business to come to them with ideas that sometimes aren't going to impact the agency at all. It might be a distribution issue or something else. It might be a pricing strategy. They want you to demonstrate that you actually care about the outcome of their business and their KPIs, whether they benefit the agency or not. So that was across the board. So that this is a problem, right? Because a lot of our account people are order takers and they don't really understand our client's business, and they don't really understand how to ask the right business questions to have insights into business problems. And so one of the things agencies have to really think about is they really do need to train their account people to be better business consultants, if you will, to understand what makes business work and not work, so they can have more intelligent and articulate conversations about all aspects of the business. That is an expectation of our clients today. So in a world when marketing has gotten so much more complicated, and it's hard for any of us to keep our arms around all of the technologies and opportunities and channels and all the things, I think we have to peel back and go back to the basics and ask ourselves, are the people who are interfacing with our clients, do they understand how business works and what levers you can and can't pull to make different things happen inside a business?
Yeah. Well, that's why I always tell agencies too, the one that specializes, it's going to be easier for their team because then they can actually understand their audience a lot more and understand their goals, what's worked. They'll have the stories in their head from what's worked for other people and be like, they'll be able to reference it. And I also believe too, is once you have that specialization, if you have those models or those frameworks that, have been proven in the past, you're going to win. And the clients are going to be like, all right, cool. I look at you as a trusted advisor. I'm going to come to you with a business problem, not a marketing problem. And when you can do that, then you're separated from everybody.
Yeah. We at AMI, we're huge proponents of the specialization niching model. I think it's very hard. And, we see the financials of 200 plus agencies. And I will tell you, the agencies are struggling with profitability, with growing their AGI, with continuing to put more money to the bottom line for both the agency owner and the employees. Without exception, they are a specialist in some way, either industry niche or an audience niche or a deliverable niche, because the generalists are struggling to keep up. There's just too much going on and it's too complicated for someone to know everything about everything. I just, our world, I think about what the agency life was like back when I started my shop 30 years ago compared to how complicated it is today. And it's a completely different game. So the generalists continue to struggle. So your point is exactly right, I think.
How else can, what are some things that we can do in order to build a better relationship with our clients?
Yeah. I think part of it is investing, and this came up in the survey too. It's one of the things we teach in our AE boot camps, but AEs need to invest time and energy into learning more about the business. And you can't do that from behind your computer at the office or in your house. You have to actually get up and go. So sitting in a trade show booth for a day or going on a day of runs with a salesperson, or spending a day on the plant floor, or just really observing how the business functions and having a better sense of how your client interacts with their customers, listening in on call center calls, however your client interacts with their customers, sitting inside the store, whatever that looks like, and spending time and then asking really great questions. We need to invest the time to be boots on the ground, observing how our clients do their work, number one. Number two, I think it is about understanding how their business functions. And so, again, case studies, talking to, helping your client do research with their client or customer, that kind of thing. I think all of those huge time investments on the agency's part. But if we don't understand that, we are relegated to an order taker by our own design. And we can't really complain about it, right? Because that's the position we put ourselves in.
What are the questions? Is there like a particular question that you've seen that we as agencies can do a better job rather than, because the thing that always frustrates me when I talk to all these agencies is they're like, well, our client told us to do this, and they're just an order taker. And like when they're an order taker, they're, expendable and they can go. But is there certain questions that we could ask in order to kind of, I love kind of going to their office and, getting off on Zoom and going out there, when we're talking to our mastery members, we're always talking about like, you got to get out there, like especially on the onboarding, right? Like if you're doing all onboarding virtually and you guys are so proud about being virtual and all over the world, but sometimes that hurts you. So is there particular questions that we can ask?
Well, I think your point is, at the end of the day, it's still human beings doing business with human beings, and there is no substitute for FaceTime and creating that relationship. We all know that we operate on the know, like, trust model, and I think it's really hard to develop trust if you've never actually been in the same room with somebody. And I think it's about the depth of the trust. I think you can develop a certain level of surface trust, over Zoom and phone calls, but I think there's something about being together and being in a conference room and breaking bread together and all of those things that at the end of the day still matter. But I do think asking more questions, when a client says, we need a fill in the blank, we need a brochure, we need a trade show booth, we need a app, we need a widget, whatever it may be, I think all too often we assume the client knows their business. And so we say, okay, then we'll go make you a widget. We don't even ask the simple questions like, why? Why do you need a trade show booth? You go to one trade show a year. Is there a different way to spend that $50,000? Is there we don't really dig into the underlying reasons for what they're asking enough to understand that I'll bet you 50% of the time they're wrong. They need something, but they're wrong about what they need. And the way we earn trust is by saying, we can absolutely do that for you, but here's why I don't think that's a good idea, or here's why it's not the best spend of your money. Here's where I think you could get more bang for your buck. And by the way, it's going to be about $10,000 less, yada, yada, yada. But one of the things that came through in the research loud and clear is they want us to ask more questions. They want us to be more invested in their business, but also they expect us to be proactive. So we can't wait for them to place the order. We need to be going to them. And a lot of agencies shy away from this because it feels pushy and all of that. But what loud and clear, what they said was they give us more money when we give them a reason to give us more money, that they want us to be thinking about their business and come to them with ideas. The other thing that makes them give us more money is when we're doing something and the ROI of that is so measurable that, okay, you gave us $20,000 and it generated this many leads or this many sales or this many, whatever it is, the KPI is. So if you give us $40,000, we believe this is what you're going to get. Something that's working, they're willing to pour more money into. And so being really good about tracking results, defining success, communicating those successes is probably the easiest way to get more money out of a client.
Yeah, I remember Lotus Cars called us up one day and was like, we need a website for this car we're coming out with that's four-door. It was like their first four-door car they've ever bought. And they were like, we want you to do a website. And everybody was pitching, to do that particular website. And I said, well, let's kind of stop a little bit and kind of, how can we separate ourselves from everybody else and be like, well, let's make sure let's help you do the strategy and make sure you actually need the website. And we started asking more and more questions. Well, it wound up, 6 months later, we were the agency of record for Lotus Cars, right? And we literally, we said, look, you want to give all these other people $100,000, $200,000 for a website. Look, I'm just asking for $20K to sit down with you for a couple of days and just go over. Like, I can't charge you that, but I think it's going to be a waste.
But what if it's wrong? Right.
Exactly. And, when you do that to a vendor and a client, like, they're going to think, oh my gosh, like, this person's not after me, like money hungry, kind of like the last group that you were talking about.
Yep.
Like, they'll actually build more trust because you're turning away a ton of money, even though that will all come back 10 times.
Right. I mean, the idea of, the analogy I think every agency on the planet uses is, somebody asks us to build a house. And what most agencies do is they go to the lumber yard, they buy a bunch of lumber and nails, and they just start hammering. Right. And the smart agency says, actually, we can't build you a house today. We don't know what you really need. So first we have to do the architectural process. We have to actually put together a plan. We need to ask you questions about, do you expect to have grandchildren? Do we need to add 2 more bedrooms? Do you want a pool? How many bathrooms do you have? Do you need it? Is one of you not want to do stairs anymore? So we have to, and agencies are starting to get smarter about saying, we're not going to just start the work without having the discovery and the strategy, which frankly is super profitable work. It's there's no cost of goods. It's all AGI. It's lovely. And you will uncover more needs than your client thinks they have. And to your point, you will earn their trust. And when they see that you understand their business, that was the other one of the other big takeaways from the research is they do not want to give an agency more money. They don't think the agency really understands their business. And again, this leans back into our niche specialization comment earlier, but also an investment and an involvement in learning their business. And if they don't see that, and if they don't feel it, they are not they have no desire. They're not in a position, frankly, to give an agency money if they don't have a lot of confidence that the agency is going to deliver results. For us, it might mean we lose a client. For our client, it means they lose their job. And so they're just not that, they're more risk adverse than that. They don't want to give an agency money unless they're pretty darn sure the results are going to help them get a raise or a promotion or a bonus or at least keep their job.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what I remember is no one ever gets fired for hiring IBM. That was like a long time ago because it's like, hey, I hired IBM, one of the best. Where when you look at it, you're like, really? You hired them for digital marketing? Like think about it.
Right. So it feels like a safe choice.
Safe choice, exactly, versus kind of going on a limb. What about for the second group? What can we do to kind of better our agencies targeting them?
Yeah. So for them, it's really, that was important. But what was even more important to them was understand and respect my team. Like, don't come in and try and make them look stupid. Don't come in and try and take work that we believe is best done internally and bring it over to your agency. Understand the ecosystem of how we work, who's on the team, and where you can lend a hand, where maybe we're short-staffed or that's a specialty we don't have in-house. But basically, it was sort of a mind your place message, right? Like, don't overstep your bounds. But if you're really good at what you do, let's just say SEO because it's a thing. If you're really great at SEO and we don't have SEO specialists, you working with the rest of the team to help them understand how their role can impact the SEO results and vice versa, how what you do with SEO can help them accomplish their goals and really team up with them. That really mattered to that second group. They think highly of their internal team, and they really think it's disrespectful that a lot of agencies come in and try and prove that they're smarter than the internal team.
That was one of my big things I would tell our employees at the agency is, I know you want people to think you're smart.
Yeah.
And you're trying to, use these big terminologies no one ever heard about. But at the end of the day, if you make them feel dumb or like you're threatening, like they're not going to want to be around you. So you got to kind of dumb down or make things really simple. I mean, I've always gone back to the principle of just the basics. It's literally like, what's your goal? What's the problem? Where are you at now? Like, how do I get you over there? And see how we can help. And I always laughed at the bigger agencies we were up against, back in the day and going, man, and like I would see some of their pitches or I'd sit in, I'm like, wow, these are really bad. Like they're just talking down to people and they think they're the Don Draper of their industry.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
Right.
It's tough.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, both of the groups, we sort of disregard the, I don't want to give them a dime if I don't have to group, because I wouldn't spend a lot of time. If you have a client like that who hasn't increased their budget in 10 years and it sort of begrudgingly gives you the money because they have to, I wouldn't spend a lot of time trying to grow their business with you or grow their business because that's not what they value. But the other two, they are really open. And in fact, one of the things another thing that they said that was important to them that I think your listeners need to hear is they want more interaction with the agency owner. And by interaction, it's not necessarily that they want the agency owner working on their business in a day-to-day fashion. That's not what they're saying. But they are saying they want the agency owner to check in, to understand, to know what the team is doing, to be a sounding, for a lot of our clients, they don't have anyone internally that they can kick around big ideas with and all of that. And they look at the agency owner as somebody who's sort of their equal and could be a sounding board or a thinking partner, if you will. And that we don't do as much of that as they want.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember, I told my team, I was like, look, I'm just going to come into some meetings and add color. That's it. Just to kind of, like, I just watched the movie Air, where Nike's trying to land Michael Jordan. And it was kind of cool with the one guy that was in charge of kind of bringing Michael Jordan in. He told the CEO of Nike, he was like, no, you're going to come in 15 minutes late rather than just be ready for them at the door and show they're busy. Because I always looked at it as, and I always tell, agency salespeople too, is like, when you come in, you can't just make friends with them. They got to kind of see you a little above, almost as advisors, because you're not selling, you're advising. Same thing with account managers. Like, if they see you as the equal, then they're not going to be like, well, you're my equal, so I know better.
Right. That's right. Yep.
So that was always interesting. Well, this has all been amazing, Drew. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
Yeah, I think the bottom line is we can be more assertive in bringing ideas to clients, but we have to earn the right to do that by demonstrating that we understand their business and that we're invested in their business. But the bottom line is they are open to and actually anxious for us to bring them new ideas. And most of them, I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 80%. Most of them have basically violated their own budget by finding more money in the middle of a year. So they do have pockets of money, even if they tell us they don't. They do have ways to find money, and they are willing and eager to give it to us for the right reasons. We just have to demonstrate that we're not doing it just to benefit the agency, but we really do understand their business. We are paying attention to the market, and we have some ideas that can help them grow their business.
Yeah.
So there's money out there for us to have if we want to go get it.
Yeah. Such great advice. Well, thanks so much, Drew, for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, I want you guys to share it out with your friends and to help out them and to help out us. And if I want to personally invite all of you to go to agencymastery360.com. If you want to turn your agency from an agency burden into an asset, we have tons of resources out there for free. Go check that out now. And until next time, have a Swenk day.